ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930 present The Drive. Brought to you by Huntington Federal Savings Bank. Local women, local now. Member FDIC.
Welcome in. It is a snow day for a lot of us, but it's also Thursday, February 18th. The Drive begins now on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. I'm your host, Paul Swann. Thanks for tuning in. You can be a part of the program by calling the White Claw phone lines, 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. What do we got coming up on the show today for you? Going to hear from John Mercer coming up. He's coming up about 5:30. We're going to talk with him, our weekly conversation. Marshall tennis back in action. And I got to ask him about that because right now we're doing this show live. And if you're listening to us on the podcast, let me tell you what I see right now as I record this. I'm blessed. I have a window. I can look outside. Some radio stations do not have windows, so I can look out on the world, and I see huge flakes of snow coming. So that's going to be the question for John Mercer on tennis. Are we going to have tennis on Friday? So far, so good. We're going to find out. That's coming up. We'll talk to him about 5:30. We'll hear from Tony Kemper in the next few minutes. The Marshall women are playing Rice. That is coming up Saturday and Sunday now. That has changed. Saturday and Sunday. And talked to him earlier on Zoom. At the time, they didn't really have sort of that nailed down. He did tell us on Zoom that it would be Saturday for sure. And they're trying to figure out the rest of it. Well, since then, they have figured out the rest of it. And so the Thundering Herd in action this weekend, it's going to be Saturday and Sunday. If you can get out, go support those ladies. They really need it. Seriously, if you can, I'm not asking you to risk anything, but if you can get out there, go support them. Definitely check out what they're doing because they finally, you'll hear from Coach in a few minutes, they finally have probably their unit back. They finally now have, this is now Marshall basketball. This is what the Marshall women's team looks like. Everyone's back, but it's going to be Saturday at 1 p.m., Sunday at noon. If you can't go, it's going to be on CUSA TV. But that's where you can watch the Herd if you're not going to the Henderson Center to see what they're up to. So we'll hear from Coach in a few minutes. Kristen Mayo, we're going to hear from her as well later on in the show. We'll get her thoughts as it's been just topsy-turvy for her and the squad. So that's our show today. And, of course, as I mentioned, we'll get your phone calls in, 877-420-TALK, 877-420-8255. You can find me on Twitter, at Paul Swann. You can also find us on Facebook. We've got the group and the page. We're growing that. We want you to be a part of it. Get you in on the ground floor. Help us grow something there. I want to build a really big community for you so we can talk sports in the region, local sports, not just Marshall. I just want to have it be a place where you can discuss things, and then I'm going to pick up on what you're talking about. That's my goal. I'm going to look at what you're talking about and see where we need to be. And honestly, that's my intent there. So you can find us on Facebook, find the page, and then join the group. The group is intended for you. You can discuss anything you want to. I'm going to jump in at times, and I guess I'm going to be like the referee. This is going to be like one big happy wrestling federation, and I'm going to be Earl Hebner here. I'm going to be the referee sometimes, just maybe breaking it up a little bit, redirecting things, but I want you to check all of that out and to help me build something there because, again, that's going to be your opportunity. And you know what? If you got something that I should be talking about, let me know. If there's something that you agree with, let me know. If there's something that, like, hey, Paul, I think you need to be here. I don't think this is where you need to be. Let me know. And you've got the Facebook group to do that in. Of course, Twitter. Twitter's like one big press conference for me. That's the point of Twitter for me. It's basically me making announcements and interacting with you as well. But we're going to do some more of the social media. But I want you on the platform with me. So find our Facebook group, The Drive with Paul Swann, the page as well. And you can find me on Twitter, at Paul Swann. And while you're doing all of that social media stuff, this is the part of the program where I remind you can subscribe to the podcast. The podcast is on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher Radio, wherever you get your podcasts. These are all the platforms that we're trying to grow, and we want you to be a part of it because, seriously, I want you to be a part of it. I want you to have some ownership of it, connection to it. I want you to be someone who can feel like you're involved. You're in on it. You're with us. So there you go. That's the hard sell for all of that. But coming up, we're going to hear from Tony Kemper. Later on, I'm going to hear Kristen Mayo. I've got John Mercer joining me, so we're going to keep in touch with everything that's going on. We're going to try to cover the entire spectrum of what's happening with Marshall sports. We'll start with women's basketball and Tony Kemper on the other side of the break. Later on, Kristen Mayo. In the middle of all that, John Mercer. We'll talk Marshall tennis, see what the weather situation looks like. Again, I'm looking out the window right now, and I hope that you stayed home today. If you got a chance to get out, it wasn't bad getting out, but I hope that if you had the opportunity, you get to stay home because it's just nuts out there right now. And I hope you're in a good place. And if you're not, let us know. We'll try to find places for you need to be because there are warming stations across the tri-state. Just go to our regular Facebook page, ESPN 94.1 FM. You can go to our page. We're going to update you on what's happening around the tri-state. There are going to be places for you to go. So if you need that information, we've got you covered on Facebook, on social media. If you need to find someplace and you don't know where to go, message me and I'll try to help you out. So you've got all that information now. When we continue, Tony Kemper, he's going to be telling us about Rice, part of his Zoom earlier this morning. So we'll hear that later on. John Mercer, Marshall Tennis, here on The Drive, ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Presented by Huntington Federal Savings Bank.
Our phone lines this hour presented by White Claw. Welcome back to The Drive on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930. Been a schedule change for the Thundering Herd. Marshall women's basketball Saturday and Sunday now in action. Weather conditions have been hard to deal with, and so the women's schedule has been changed. There will be a Saturday matchup and a Sunday matchup. The opponent this week, Rice. I had a chance earlier this afternoon to be online with the head coach of the Marshall Thundering Herd women's basketball team, Tony Kemper, and wanted to start out just kind of getting an idea of what his opponent was about. We start with Coach talking about the Rice Owls.
Really good, obviously. I mean, I think when you look at the program they've built at Rice over the last 4 or 5 years, it's the best one in the league right now. They've got, I think if you back up to a year ago when we were getting ready to play, I think one of the things that probably not very many people know about our league, we were probably poised to get multiple teams in the NCAA tournament last year, and that was that's been a first time on the men's or women's side in a really long time. But we had multiple teams like in the top 30 of the RPI. I think there was 3 actually, or 1 maybe right on the outside of that going into the conference tournament. And they're one of the teams that were in that mix. And then, I also think they're kind of the one that had developed to the point where everybody else made everybody else better, And so they're tremendous. They own a 20-point win at Texas Tech this year. So they've gone on the road to a Big 12 team and not beat them, but beat them soundly. They lost by 4, I think, at Texas A&M, which is a highly ranked team. So they're constructed really well. They do have a post presence that, probably, and I've kind of said this week, I think thinking about it, there may not be anybody in any league, and that's pro, men, women, whatever, that has a greater impact on the entire league than what Nancy Mulkey's able to do in our league. She is, you're going to see the size difference. It is not the 6'9" or whatever she's listed at. That's not a fluke. That's, when we line up to tip, you're going to see the difference in her, and they do a great job of scheming with that kind of player in there. Makes it very difficult on both ends of the floor. So, talented players, well coached, they'll be ready to go. And, and yet I think over the last couple of days, Kristen said we've practiced well. I think we have. I think that our team is excited to play. I'm sentimental when Kristen talks about the things that she talks about. Like, I'm going to miss her, and I think probably if I've complained about one thing more than anything this year, it's the absence of number two. I think she's a huge key to us. And, I have, when I can't go to sleep at night, I think that's really affected us. She, at the beginning of the year, I don't think she would pull any punches. I think she was in the best shape she'd ever been in. I think that I watched her kind of dominate practice at her position, like day after day after day. And then she, maybe more than it, we've had a couple like Kristen, Kia, they've kind of been on the same cycle of in and out, and they've really been hamstrung by that. I mean, the rhythm of her season, and not just games, practice too, has been completely interrupted. So it's just been difficult. I think she was shooting it as well as she ever had. And then she's got to go sit down for 2 weeks. Then she comes in for a week and gets going again. Then she's got to go sit down for two. I mean, that happened probably 4 or 5 times between middle of October to the middle of January. And so it's, she's really super loyal to Marshall and me. And boy, I wish we could have had her out there for more games in her senior year. But I do know that she'll be ready to play the last ones that we get. And I'm excited to coach her in those.
When you play Rice, how do you attack them? What's going to have to happen for you to beat them?
Well, you've got to be smart about the things that you take. You've got to be okay with, maybe some not deeper, but it is hard to score at the basket level. You've got to really move the ball to open things up in there because of her size, and so that's kind of the first thing is a little bit. They are definitely unique. Like, you kind of have to understand levels and where you're at, and sort of read where that secondary defender is, because she can contest shots from so far away from the actual play. So you got to play as normal as you can, and then also understand that she really does a nice job of altering shots. On the offensive end, you've got to try to get her as far away from the basket as you can. Obviously, if she's really close, she just reaches her hand up there and it's going to go in. And I think she was 9 for 11, maybe in one of the 2 games against Western Kentucky. So, 90% shooting from the floor, that's a pretty good night. And, we're not the only ones. Obviously, Western struggled with that. We're not the only ones that may struggle in there size-wise. And you just have to find a way to counter it. You got to be super tough. You got to be smart with the ball. Like, we can't turn it over. We've got to get shots on goal. And then we've got to be smart and efficient in what we're actually trying to get done. And, I think we're preparing. We'll continue to prepare today to get those things buttoned up.
Coach, you're on this final stretch right now, and have you spoken to the team at all about trying to find a way to maybe split some of these series to get into the tournament?
I think we all understand that we've kind of survived all our in and out. That's the way I feel about it, and I just talked about, Kristen's played 40% of our conference games. And if you look at our conference statistics, that's your second leading scorer playing 40% of your games. So that's not an easy thing to get through. And we've sort of survived that, but now we have some of the best teams in our league back to back to back. And so it's not we have to play well. And I think everyone understands that. We've got to find a way to grind some out. And we've got to play well to do it. So I think there's definitely urgency to grow. And also part of that is we finally have our team in practice. We haven't had our team in practice since really the first part of right at the end of December. So, the question to Kristen about can you build in practice? Absolutely. We haven't had it to build. So this week has been really important. Last week was really important because we finally got to practice. So instead of just going, what does Rice do and how are we going to counter that? We could also work on, this is what we want to do. We have everybody there. And now let's try to build as a team. And, So yeah, I think that's a long-winded answer to. I think we all understand kind of where things are and what looms ahead, and I think we're competitors as well. So we're kind of fine with the situation as is. We have to find a way to compete with those teams.
Coach, so you just mentioned that everyone's, for the first time, you're going to have everybody at full strength to go on Saturday. Let's presume you're going to play Saturday. How do you try to manage that? Because so far you've had like 8 to 10 to 12. It's been like a different rotation. Are we going to see different rotations maybe in the lineup combination since you now finally have everybody good to go?
Yeah, I think the thing that's happened for me as a coach, I'm comfortable with a lot of them, but you also watch practice every day, and there's a pecking order in practice, and so the ones that practice the best day in and day out are probably going to be in there a little bit more, and yet at the same time, I know we're going to run a lot of people in there. So if you're coming off the bench and you have good minutes, that only helps me understand that you're ready to play and you understand what's going on. So. I think the rotation and who's in and who's out is it is a little bit to be determined, and yet I think our staff has a pretty good understanding of who we think kind of goes in first and things like that.
When do you think you might know an answer for Saturday?
I think soon. I don't think anybody's trying to drag this out at all, but I also know, I'm not sure if you're trying to get on and get a flight out of there and up to here. It wouldn't surprise me if nobody's even trying that yet. So that could be a little bit where, the conversations last night at 10 o'clock kind of move forward, and now they're probably working on, okay, when can we actually take off? And they might be hitting some roadblocks on that now too, finding seats on planes and things like that. So, I don't think, us coaches like to know what's going on. And so I don't think either one of us really want to dangle out here in the world that we're in for very long. But I don't there's not like a conference call at 2:00 to settle it. I think as soon as they can get the information they need, we're going to get together and then we'll figure out game times and different things like that. So as soon as we have it finalized, we'll get it out there so people know. It is a big weekend with senior night. We also have the pink game going on, which, pink game in women's basketball, that's a huge deal for our game as far as, kind of one of the things we've hung our hat on with women's basketball in college. So, it's an important weekend for Kristen and women's college basketball on the whole. And we want to get as many people out as we can. So another thing Kristen said, talked about how much we changed the schedule. And I can't tell you how much I appreciate our team. This year it's been really hard. And I don't know that I think they do a great job every day of letting me know that they're okay, by how we haven't been perfect, but they've been really resilient and tough. And this stuff, they seem to go with the flow as far as what they have to do. And from my standpoint, I think I would say every day for the last 8 days, we have probably changed our schedule. We went in with this was going to be the plan, and we haven't been in school for so long that, we're not working around class schedules and things like that. And they've been great about being where they're supposed to be and with a smile on their face. And, from my perspective, in a year that's been difficult to put together, their solidness and their approach has really helped.
Coach, also real quick about the schedule, real quick, we'll pick off of Jake's question. Is Monday, Tuesday maybe a possibility considering the weather?
No, I don't think there'll be any of that. I think part of this thing is, Rice kind of has they don't like to miss a lot of class at Rice. That's kind of one of the things that they do. So I don't think that, no, it's not going to be. We're back-ended on the other end of trying to get to Denton, Texas, to play North Texas next week. It'll be Sunday will be the latest that we will play this weekend. So I can definitively say that the back end of it stops on Sunday. What goes on between Friday and Sunday, we're trying to work that out.
Tony Kemper. Now, again, some of that was earlier this morning, this afternoon, talking to him. The schedule is now Saturday at 1 p.m., Sunday at noon. Both those games are going to be on CUSA TV. When we continue, John Mercer, head coach of the Marshall tennis team, heard tennis in action. They're going to be playing on Friday. I don't believe it, but John will correct me when we continue. He'll tell me it's going to happen here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
We're taking Paul Swann everywhere. Download or subscribe to The Drive with Paul Swann on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever you get your podcasts.
You know, the snow might have you down, but that's okay because there's still some stuff being played. Marshall women's basketball playing Saturday and Sunday, so if you're looking for something on Friday to do, 4 p.m., Marshall in action. I hope I've said this right because I don't believe it's happening, but John Mercer's here to correct me. Come on. You're playing tomorrow? You're playing tomorrow. Really? In this weather, you're playing tomorrow?
We're playing.
Okay.
Indoors.
Oh, okay, that's not the question, though. You got to get to the indoor facility.
We have heat. Yeah, we have power. We have heat. So hopefully they can still get here. So as of last night, they said they were still good to come. So hopefully we can get it in.
Joining us
short week of practice now.
Yeah, very short week of practice. John Mercer joins us on the program, head coach of the Marshall tennis team, and of course, if you've joined us over the years, you know John and I. We're more casual with each other. You know, if I'm like with Coach D'Antoni, it's all stiff because he's pretty boring. With you though, it's more fun here. But tennis is in action Friday. You're playing indoors, so right there, the benefit of playing indoor, and you've got coming in. Tell us a little bit about, because I don't know if I'm very familiar with the tennis program at Bellarmine University.
Correct. Yep. So they've made a real commitment to their athletics. I mean, they moved up to D1 this past year, which was great to hear. And they have a nice team, and they've been working at it, building it. They have a really nice schedule this year. I was looking at it the other day, and so they've made a good commitment. And what's really exciting is they have 2 kids in their starting lineup that are actually from Huntington. So grew up here, played in our junior program, and they're getting to come home and play. So, we're really excited about that.
So how do you feel about that? You when you face opponents that you had some hand in guiding their career, how do you feel about that? What's that like for you?
Mm-hmm. Well, it's happened numerous times over the years, but it's rewarding, really. I mean, we have this junior program that we run out at the new 7827 Tennis Center out in Barbersville where our team plays. And we've probably placed 30, 35 kids in college tennis over the past 15, 20 years or so, 15 years probably. And a lot of them have done really well. It's such a great opportunity and such a great experience and such an educational experience. Same thing that our players that come here and play get the experience. But it's a great way to go to school and be involved in something and to play at a D1 level and just really learn what all that commitment's about. Time that you have to put in and juggle it all. It really is. It's a great experience for everybody, and they're always very appreciative, and we have a lot of kids here working here now out at the club that are probably going to end up playing some D1 tennis too, whether it's for us or whether it's for somebody else. It's just awesome. That's what you want them to experience.
Is it hard to sometimes be someone who has been a coach with these student athletes and then try to recruit them as well when you're able to recruit them to bring them on board with the herd if there's somebody you think that would fit with what you're doing here at the university? What's that whole process like for you? Because you have a rare advantage there. I mean, for a certain point of these young ladies' careers, you can be involved with them before they get to a point where I guess they're recruitable. How's that work for you?
Right. Yeah. So I mean, there's NCAA rules we have to abide by, of course. We do all that, but every case is different. Every situation is different. Some of the kids, to be honest with you, you sit down, you talk to their parents or you talk to them and so on. And sometimes, as great as their life has been here in Huntington and they love it, so on, a lot of times they want to go away. A lot of kids want to go away and experience something different. That's certainly understandable. So, what you're always really looking for, when it comes down to recruiting is you're looking for student athletes who, this is a good fit. For one reason or another, whether it's, the academics or whether it's their ability as a tennis player or their location or where they are. And, you might find a kid in Germany that this is a really good fit. And it fits a lot more categories than what they're looking for than a kid who actually grows up in Huntington. But the bottom line is they would both get to play, D1 or D2 college tennis. And, that's ultimately is you're just trying to get them in a situation where they can be successful and they can mature and get a great education and, move on and do what they want to do in their life. So, it's a process. So it's an advantage, of course, to have them here in your own backyard, but, it's not always a gimme that, they're gonna want to stay here.
So let's talk about your opponent. Really, I've always meant to ask you, is it more about you, or how do you game plan when you go up against the opponent in such an individual sport? How do you go about that? Is it more, is it a lot of film study? Is it a lot of just working on what your players are capable of, a little bit of both? What does that look like in trying to get ready for a program like Bellarmine?
Well, they're just one team, but there's a lot of teams. They're like, for instance, Farman, who we just played, or teams we have coming up like Charlotte or Virginia Tech and so on. You can think about it, probably easiest to think of it this way. So when we play a match, as you know, we play 3 doubles matches and 6 singles matches. So imagine actually coaching 9 basketball games. So that's basically what you're tossed with, what you're given, is you're actually coaching 9 games within one match. Because it is, you have these individual matches going on, but there is just a lot of strategy and a lot that goes on within each match. So when we do, obviously, of course, every coach kind of has a little different style. Things that they like to emphasize, as far as, especially like in doubles and even in the singles, because we have certain patterns. You kind of have like more or less what you call plays, in other sports, but you have certain patterns you're trying to work with, and you're trying to work with that in the framework of what each player is capable of doing. So what your number 1 player might be capable of doing might be different than what your number 6 player is capable of doing. So you might be looking at different styles of play and different things you're trying to emphasize and trying to get them into during the course of a match. That being said, you're also trying to work within the framework of what the other person is capable of. So sometimes, like we play a Furman, we played them last year, we keep notes on teams. We keep notes on players, on teams that we come across, and so on and so on. You kind of have an idea what the coaches like to do, but then you also you have notes on like, okay, this player, they struggle more with serves in on the body, or they struggle more on low short balls, or they struggle on high balls with the forehand, serves out wide. So there's a whole game plan there. So you kind of have to incorporate that within what your player is capable of, and then you send them out there to play. The thing is when they play, sometimes things are going well and sometimes they're not. So you've got to be really in tune to what's going on within the match. And sometimes you start out with a game plan. Like, basketball game, you might be starting with a 3-quarter press. And that day, that's when all the game notes said that this is going to work, and you're just getting murdered by it. And so you end up having to bail out of it. So there's certain things within matches that sometimes you're changing game plans. Not sometimes, a lot of times you're changing game plans within the match of what you're trying to do. So that's what we ran into the other day with Furman, is that you really saw the last 2 matches we had on. The coach is very good, and you could see strategies changing within the match. Different types of patterns being played, different things, and basically it became a chess game. It was them changing things up, and then us trying to react to what they were doing, and then us changing things in a different way to react to what they were doing. And so you kind of have this battle going back and forth, and a lot of times that's why you see these swings in matches of, somebody might put together 2 or 3 games and somebody else puts together a game or 2. So, like I said, it can be, there's a lot going on. It's like a chess game. But the problem is you're playing 9 chess games all at the same time. Well, you have 3 doubles, which is 3 chess games, and then you play 6 singles, and then you got 6 more, which is what makes it tough from a coaching standpoint, because you're trying to kind of watch all this going on. It's kind of like, it's like if Coach D'Antoni had 2 basketball games going on at the same time, or 3 games going on at the same time in the Henderson Center, and he's trying to actually manage all 3 of them. And that's what you end up, basically having to do. So it's tough. It can be a challenge sometimes.
So
to stay on top of it.
We need to lobby for a pay raise for you, is what you're telling me.
Well, let's put it this way. While my career record is I've won a fair number of matches, you could probably multiply that by about 6. So that's how many matches that you've actually won. Because like the other day we won 4-3, so we won a team match, but we actually won 4 matches within that match. So there's a lot of play in any given day. Put it this way, at the end of the day, you feel like you've been through the ringer when you play matches like you did the other day. It's a mental battle to stay engaged. Most of your matches take about 3 hours. I think the one the other day took about 3.5. And you got to really stay engaged and on top of it for that period of time. So, but you know what? In all in all, it's a lot of fun. It's like playing a game of chess. It's a challenge, and it's competitive. And you're really trying to do what's best for your student athletes, and help them through because they want to be successful. When you win matches, any match nowadays, when you win, it's a great feeling of accomplishment, and your hard work's paid off for everybody.
John Mercer, my guest. John, we have some breaking news. Hold on one moment. It's official. Marshall's men's basketball contest at Rice has been officially postponed. There's no plan at this time to make up either of these games, so that is official. I just wanted to break in that ABC News sounders. John, I haven't had a chance to use it yet, so there you go. You were part of breaking news.
That's too bad.
Yeah, well, see, that's why I'm asking you. You're playing tomorrow. The Herd don't get to play. The men's series doesn't get to play. The women are playing Saturday and Sunday, and so you're one of the fortunate ones right now.
Yeah, we've been lucky, but we've only played 4. We played 4 out of 5, so we did travel to Murray State. Got down there and actually. We was getting ready to practice the day before and was told at that point that we couldn't play the next day. So we lost that one. And we lost another one here at the beginning of March. We had Radford on the schedule, but they're not able to do it now. So we've lost a couple, but, hopefully. But we added one against UVA, which I don't know if you saw that. That was kind of the last minute.
Is that breaking news, John? You just added one?
No, sorry, that was last week.
Okay.
That was
all right, I was just saying.
Yeah, no breaking news, no ABC news. Yeah. So, but yeah, which actually worked out great for us because that was great preparation for our match against Farman. So,
John Mercer, my guest. So, just remind me, Herd fans can't come in right now. I was still thinking that maybe you were letting a few people in, but nobody can come to watch. But you're going to have everything on herdzone.com for all the live scoring and everything there.
Right. Yeah, correct. Yeah. So it'll all be on there. You can follow us there. And, sports information does a good job, sitting here monitoring the matches. And it's kind of cool to follow. It's fun to watch. So,
John Mercer, my guest. So I guess I'll talk to you soon because it's going to be a few days between matches. So I guess I'll talk to you sooner than later, I hope.
Yeah. I do want to throw one thing in there if I can. Sure,
you may.
So, yeah, okay. So we played our match against Furman the other day, and it was a 4-3 win. And Furman was actually coming off wins against Virginia Tech, South Carolina, Wake Forest, and Alabama. And we were pulled out a 4-3 win. And despite that, Furman moved into the top 25 at number 24. So it's probably one of the best wins we've ever had in all the years I've been here. So really happy for Madison Riley, a local kid who was in our junior program here, was in the Portsmouth area, won the deciding match for us to win 4-3. So it was a great day for the Herd.
John Mercer, my guest. Congratulations. Good luck to you. We'll talk to you soon. And again, herdzone.com if anyone wants to follow along. Come on, we're all going to be snowed in tomorrow anyway, except you and the tennis team. So we'll all be just looking at our monitors following along.
I hope so. Just think of warm thoughts, he's playing tennis. So warm weather sport, right?
Yeah, warm weather sport.
Thanks for having me, Paul. Yeah, really appreciate it.
Talk to you soon. John Mercer, my guest. When we continue, we'll hear from Marshall women's basketball player Kristen Mayo here on ESPN 94.1 and AM 930.
This is The Drive with Paul Swann on ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930. Presented by Huntington Federal Savings Bank.
If you're just joining us, the Marshall basketball series at Rice canceled this weekend, and the reason being is not necessarily what you think. It's not the weather. COVID-19 related issues within the Owls program. The Herd in action next on Friday and Saturday of next week. Home games against North Texas. And, of course, that's disappointing because the Marshall, of course, this would have been the final road trip for the Herd, and it's not going to be made up. So Marshall and Rice, no series. Again, the reason given is COVID-19 related issues within the Rice Owls program. The Marshall women are still in action coming up. Their games have moved to Saturday and Sunday. I was on Zoom earlier this morning with Kristen Mayo from the Thundering Herd. I want to get her thoughts on playing her opponent and just the season in general.
How difficult has this been for you, considering you've had to miss several games due to a virus, and now it's the weather. If it's not one thing, it's another. As a basketball player, how do you balance that?
I feel like you don't balance it. It's like every day you don't really know what to expect. But I mean, I guess the good thing is like we've had to do it all season, and also like it was at the end of last season too. So we've kind of learned like how to just cope with it in a way, because, like you said, like I've not played in many games, and actually like I was talking to somebody the other day and they were like, "You've played in 6 games this year." And I was like, "What?" I didn't even realize that it was that little, but at the end of the day, like it's life, and like everything that's going on is out of everybody's control. So you just got to figure out how to get past it and move on to the next day, because maybe you'll play the next day. You don't know.
So I guess for you, this could be your potential final home game potentially ever at Marshall. Is that right?
Yes. Yeah.
Has that kind of sunk in the fact that you've only played 6 games this year?
It didn't hit me until they said 6, and I was like, wow, that's a heck of a way to go out, I guess. Not many people could say that they only played 6 games and were healthy, most of them. But I'm glad to be over with I don't have to quarantine or anything anymore. So like, that's awesome that like, when we get to conference, I don't have to worry about all that stuff. Yeah, it's sinking in a little bit. I think it'll hit me pretty hard when we played the game, but it hasn't hit me like a lot throughout the season, I guess, until like it's getting closer. So now it's kind of getting scary.
Onto the opponent itself. What can you tell us as you've been preparing through a snowstorm and everything? What's your preparation look like, and what can you tell us about them?
Right now we're just, going over our game plan like we were going to play on Friday and Saturday like we would any other week. We're trying to figure out, they got 6'9" in there, so we're trying to figure out how to maneuver that. I think that our focus overall this week, though, has been pretty good. I'm, happy with where the team's at right now. I think we obviously, need to get a little bit crisper on things, but for the most part, I think that we're focused in and we're all excited to get ready to play again.
Can you get crisper in practice? Is that just a fact that you got to play ball games against an opponent to get crisper?
I think that you can get better in practice, definitely. I think because the more you go over a game plan, the better you in theory, you will be executing it. So I think that, yeah, practice is definitely essential for us right now in preparing like to get ready to do a conference in Frisco and everything, I think.
Kristen, you guys played Rice, and Rice has been pretty much the gold standard of teams in this league. Rice has normally been up near the top. You guys kind of had the inconsistency all year. You've played start, stop, start, stop, start, stop. So how do you try to play the best team in your league when you kind of had this like inconsistency of going on and off all year?
I don't think anybody's been exempt from, what's been going on this year. So I think, they lace up their shoes the same way we do. So we can't look at them and like, I guess go into the game as like reserved and like kind of nervous about how the outcome will turn out. We just got to go play them like we would play anybody else.
Also, as of now, like you guys are only scheduled, I believe, as of now to play one game. Coach contract, but you're trying to schedule a Saturday game. The energy factor, it seemed kind of like the first game that you guys have kind of been a little more lethargic on energy. How do you guys try to build that up as a team as like you head into this final stretch with this last home game set and then the conference tournament starting just right around the corner?
I think that, we're obviously all excited, and every time that we get a text or something that says there's like a change in schedule, then it's like a little bit deflating in the moment, but that makes each game more exciting, and like there's more on the line in every single game that we play now. So I think that, we're just going to have to keep our spirits high and our energy up and be excited for the moments that we actually do get to go play.
And just a reminder, the women are in action Saturday and Sunday. That news coming up a little bit later after this Zoom call took place. So Marshall women's basketball action Saturday and Sunday. The men not in action this weekend due to COVID-19 issues, according to the statement released by Marshall University. The COVID-19 issues within the Rice program, so this is not impacting the Thundering Herd on that level. However, that means no Marshall basketball this weekend. The Herd will be home next week. Marshall will not be on the road again until the Conference USA tournament. So Thundering Herd staying at home until it's tournament time. Still, it's very disappointing to lose a couple of games for the Thundering Herd. We'll see what this whole standing looks like when Conference USA finally gets to that point. I know there's a couple of makeup games across the league, Marshall included. It's tough to play a schedule when some schools are playing more games, some schools are playing less, and that's going to do it for this edition. Thanks for tuning in. I appreciate it. Don't forget, you can find me on Twitter at Paul Swann. You can find me on the podcast page at Apple Podcast, The Drive with Paul Swann. Like it, subscribe it, give us 5-star review. Appreciate everything you do for me, and hopefully I'm doing the same for you. That's going to do it for this edition. And, of course, if you don't have Apple Podcasts, you can get the podcast on Spotify, Stitcher Radio, or wherever you get your podcast.
WRBC Huntington, W227BS Huntington, your flagship home of the Marshall Thundering Herd and The Drive with Paul Swann, ESPN 94.1 FM and AM 930.